class. I wanted to go through the zine assignment and just kind of show you some examples and then show you how to make a zine quickly. Here you can't see my desk, but I have a number of things that will help me. I've got a bunch of stuff to draw with, colored markers, highlighters, because I want to do some neon stuff, pens. Um, I've got some paper. You can just use regular old white paper. I had this around, so I'm going to use this and use the little border. Um, but you can use regular white paper, you can use colored paper, any kind of paper that you want. I would suggest that it be light paper so that it's easy to fold because that's what you'll be doing. I'm going to show you some examples first. Um, oh, also you'll need some scissors. I have these little tiny kid scissors in my office, so I use those. Um, it's that easy. That's all you really need. Paper, a pair of scissors or something to cut with, and something to draw with. Okay. You can also use stickers. You can use, you can make collages. You can use magazines, clip stuff, glue stuff if you want to. These are some examples. Okay. So zines are, it's just short for magazine, but these are homemade DIY craft, folk craft, uh, little pieces that usually people will make so that they can like get an idea down. They might want to talk about something specific. They might want to do a cartoon. Um, all sorts of different things you can do with zines. So here's some mini zines here with some poetry in them. Okay, and these are made by somebody who's um, got a little printer. So that can be really helpful. This is another example of one. Okay, this is another little mini zine, and it's also got just writing on the pages. Okay. There's a staple. Some of these pages are just like kind of folded together, and there's a staple that'll help keep it in place if you've got something on the outside. If you want to go a little bit fancier with that, you can staple it in the center so it all keeps all the pages together. You do not have to do that. I'll show you the way to do it where you don't need a stapler, but you are more than welcome to. Those are some small ones. Um, Here's an example of another zine. I got this at a craft fair and they were just selling them for a few bucks. And they are printed. It looks like kind of like a screen print here. But they're printed and they have writing and drawings and stencils and all sorts of things on them. There's a really cool kind of like emblem with a Celtic knot and looks like a fox here. And this is just different ideas that are written down. Uh, you can do a number of different things. In the video, you can see that you can have a little story in there or whatever. What you're doing with this is you're going to be writing a list. So, and showing someone something. So this is another example of a zine. Here's a really nice artwork here. This is artwork that was created on the computer and then they print it in. They give it a template for a zine. You can look those up if you really want to do it that way. And they have a really nice kind of like series of little poems in here that they wrote. So these are some examples of zines. Notice very handmade. There's no staples in this one. This one is like you can literally take it apart and see how it's folded, and then it's just cut in the middle so that you have the different pages that go with it when you put it back together. So those are some examples of different zines that I wanted to show you some examples of what they look like. Your zines, you can do anything you want. If you're an artist, if you're someone who likes to do crafts or paper crafts, then your zines can definitely have all sorts of this stuff. You can print something out and then fold it if you can get it in a template. Otherwise, you'll be doing it by hand. Here's another example. This is my example. And so this is a little zine that I made. And again, with that paper. And this is, so I wrote my own list. I've been going through your lists, but I wrote my own list of different kinds of things that you would instruct somebody how to do. But most of the things that you wrote on your list are things that you learn through observation. And that's usually the way that we will learn a lot of kind of social cues and how to do things is by just observing. But if you've ever been to a friend's house who's a different culture from you or different ethnicity, they have different routines, they have different things that they do. And if you've ever been to a friend's house and they do something very specific, maybe for a holiday that they have, then you might ask, like, oh, what is the proper way to do this? And they'll show you. Sometimes we eat completely different from other people. So you might always just, like have all your food on the counter, and everybody just goes to the counter and gets the food and puts it on their plate and then goes to the table or wherever they're going to eat. Some people have a very formal, they sit down together, they have the food in the front, sorry, on the top of the table, and it's in the center, and everybody kind of gets the food from there. That's usually some ways that people eat. And if you don't know, if you always eat one way and you go to another person's house, they'll usually tell you, or you'll just watch. Oh, this is the way that they, get their food, and this is the way that they're socially engaging in their meal. So that's one example. We don't always know how to do things, but we usually learn by observation. If it's folklore, then we're usually learning it orally. We speak it from one person to another, but we also watch things through observation. We might watch two older people, um, dealing with an issue or a situation, and that's how we learn how to deal with it ourselves. And we just internalize it and learn it that way. So the list was supposed to ask, what are these things that we observe or we learn by asking, but we don't learn like necessarily in a school or another institution. There's many of them, and I've been reading all sorts of different stuff. Something that's very like specific to a culture, something that's like kind of fun that you thought, like kids just do at the playground, that kind of stuff. So I've been reading a lot of those. I made my own list. One of the things on the list was dinner parties. There's a difference between going to a dinner party versus going to like a backyard barbecue. Some of the things are similar, but when you really stop to think about it, if you're invited to somebody's house for dinner, and it's more formal, you're definitely not going to just go through the backyard unless they tell you. So you're going to go to the front door and knock on the front door. That's one of the things that I was like, oh, this is a social thing that usually you learn by observation. And sometimes you'll ask about it, but usually you learn it by observation. So I decided to write one on my list that was how to go to a dinner party and be a good guest. Right. So here I drew this, and this was the first page, and you can see, obviously there's a dinner. There's some dinner on the table. There's some candles. I'm not the best artist, but I had fun with just doing some colors. And there's the table. Then what I did was I wrote down 5 or 6 different steps, things to remember for when you're going to a dinner party, things that you might not know ahead of time that you should do. Okay. And this is just my list, so it might be different if somebody else writes their own. So first thing on my list is that you should arrive on time to a dinner party because people are making dinner. If it's a regular party, there's a difference between that. You can come later. A lot of people tend to do that. But a dinner party, you want to come on time. You don't want to go early. And you probably don't want to be too late because the food will get cold and they'll be waiting for you. So this is a social cue that I think is pretty important. I drew a clock, and I put it at 6 o'clock so that you could see that that's when a lot of times when people will invite you over. The second one is bring some small little gift or token for the host. And the tokens that I suggested were a bottle of wine. I was pretty proud of my wine. Some cookies or flowers. Those are always good things to just bring with you. One of them is fine. And you don't always want to come empty-handed. It's always really nice to just have a little something. If you can't afford expensive stuff to bring your host, that's not a big deal. Bring something really small or bring something handmade. So you can, if you have flowers in your garden, my friend always brings flowers from her garden. She really loves, and she knows how to put them together. She brings flowers. Number three, make small talk with guests and introduce yourself and find your seat at the table. So here I drew some really weird characters, and there's a little table and there's the seats, and they're all talking to each other. And I just have one of them say, "Your dress is awesome," and the other one's like, "Hey." So I just drew what I wrote. Number four, compliment the food. Compliment the food, right? This is so yummy. This is really delicious. Thank you so much for making it. Complimenting the food and being personable and talking with people is really helpful at a dinner party, because a lot of times when you're invited to a dinner party, you might be invited to a dinner party and you might not know everybody there and they might not know you. And it's really nice to just say hi and introduce yourself. You don't have to be the belle of the ball or crazy, excited about everything, but it's okay if you are too, because that's what the host is looking for. They want to know that you're enjoying the food, and that you're having a nice time, okay, at a dinner party. So that's a social cue. And then that's the end almost. The last one I have is don't stay too late, but enjoy yourself. So a lot of times at a dinner party afterward, all of the people are, like talking and hanging out, and that's really nice. But be aware that, if you're the last ones there and the host is yawning, then it might be time to say goodnight. They've put together a whole entire evening, they've made food. So a lot of times they are tired at the end of it. So it's always nice to know, to gauge when a good time to leave the party is. Just like knowing when to arrive on time for dinner is helpful. Knowing when to leave. And if people are enjoying themselves and want to stay later, you'll know that. You'll get the feeling for it. Sometimes you don't. But that's okay. That's part of learning about the dinner party and going to different dinner parties. And make good small talk, or talk about something that you really like doing, and just be a part of the experience. Enjoy the food. I have a bunch of food. Notice that that wine bottle that I brought earlier is like tipped over, and I think of a good dinner party as like, kind of a little bit of chaos at the end, but everybody's having a really good time. There's somebody that's whistling, there's somebody that's talking, and then there's somebody that's just enjoying everything. And that's my zine. Okay, so this is what I'm looking for, the format. Okay. About 5 or 6 pages. This can be broken up into like 5 or 6 good steps for whatever you're deciding to write on. Okay. And by writing, that's what I mean. I don't mean you have to have paragraphs and paragraphs of writing. If you're typing this and you're putting it on there, that's fine. You can have lots of writing. It's completely open and up to you. The main point of this assignment is, number one, to recognize all of the things that we do that are informal. The ways that we actually learn, most of the time, is by observation and by word of mouth. When we institutionalize it, when we're learning in a classroom, it's a really formal setting, and we know, or we learn, um, the different ways to take notes and to pay attention and what to pay attention to. But it takes a long time to do that. And in an informal setting, sometimes we don't have anything written down. We don't know. If you've never been to a dinner party, um, it might be confusing or a little bit intimidating to some people. Going to any social function can be that way. So we watch and we see what other people are doing and we tell each other, like, hey, like, make sure you're here at this time. We try socially to engage with each other and teach each other these social cues. Are they objective? No, not really. They're going to change. My dinner party, the experience is going to be different from other people's, but I can definitely be helpful in, like I've been to a few, and even though they have been very different from each other, there are some basic things that I usually know when I'm going. All right. So let's just get to the actual making of it. It's really easy. You get your piece of paper and you're going to fold it in half lengthwise. So piece of paper, fold it in half. Mhm. Cut it in half, fold it in half again lengthwise. So got it. Looks like that. Make sure your edges are nice and matching. Okay. The more you match your edges now, the less it's going to be messy on the edge. So there it is in half again, and lengthwise, you're going to do it one more time. This is why it's helpful to have paper that is easy to fold. If you're using cardstock, it's going to be a lot harder to do this. So if you're using cardstock and you want a nice hard-bound side, then maybe get the cardstock and put that over it and then staple it in the center. So once you've done that, you're going to have 8 sides here. Okay. And you can cut the center. What you're going to be doing, if you can see, is from this part to this part, you're just going to cut one line there. Okay. You can do that a number of different ways. You can slice it if you want with your scissors so that it's easier to do. You can fold it back up and just cut along the lines, which is what I'm going to do, just from this one to this one, not all the way to the end. So I'm just going to make a little cut here. So I cut it and it looks like this. Okay. And then you can see when you open it up that it's just the center. The center that's cut. Okay. You're going to fold it back up and harden the edges. So you can use your scissors for this. And you're just going to run this alongside the edges to get them nice and straight. And there you have it. You've got your zine, right? Your zine for what you're doing. You can also, if you want, if you don't like this outside, you can kind of manipulate them. I have the border, so I want my border to be on the outside of it, so I'll manipulate it so it's like that. But you should have a first page, another page here, a page here, an internal page here, an internal page here, and then a back page. And that's going to give you the pages for your zine. Okay. So you want to know what you're going to have on your first page and all of your other pages. Sometimes it's nice if this is the back, right? I mean, I would probably, because this has a border, I'd probably fold it so that I have the border on the front. It might take you a few tries. No biggie. But in the back, if you have something in the back, then that'll be your last page. Sometimes I like to put a little something funny on that. It's completely up to you. But what I'm looking for is a zine that's like this. And I want you to, before you even start the zine, probably write down 1 through 6 or 1 through 5 and mark what you're going to have on each page. Okay, and fill those pages with one of those things that you would learn through observation or informally from person to person. How would you teach somebody how to do one of those things? A really good way to think about it is also like if an alien was coming down from another world, right? And they didn't know the customs, um, how would you how would you clearly indicate how to do something that you think is like every day, all the time, you just know it? How would you explain that to somebody else? How would you show that? That is the zine. There are multiple zines here. And these are good examples of them. You can check out a bunch of really fancy stuff for zines online. If you're an artist, if you're a visual artist and you haven't done a zine yet before, this is a really fun exercise to do. And a lot of times people just sell them for, a buck or two, and they have their writing on it, their poetry. These are, local people that are writing poetry. Um, you might have something completely interesting that's not literature based in your zine. Uh, and sometimes people just use zines, they make zines just for themselves. And you can do that as well. This is certainly craft. And the zine really comes from like kind of the DIY craft movements. We saw a lot of it in the 1970s and then a lot during the 1980s. And now we're seeing a resurgence of doing these kinds of craft things, crafty little DIY things. And this is folk art. So this is your first folk art that you're going to be learning how to do. So anyways, that's what I wanted to show you today. If you have questions, let me know. You're going to be taking photos of it, and then you'll be doing a little video where you just go through what the pages are so that everybody can see them. So you have some time to do it. And on Thursday, so today's Wednesday, so tomorrow I'll be in OAB 180 from 3 to 5 p.m. I'll have white paper. I'll have a bunch of stuff that you can kind of like stickers and all sorts of things that you can like utilize for that. Magazines, I'll bring some old magazines. You can cut and paste and do all sorts of stuff and make your zines there. But if you want to do it, this is the video to watch. If you want to do it on your own, you're more than welcome to do that. It's not mandatory to come by tomorrow, but if you are coming by, then come and say hello and make a zine with me. I'll be making them and I'll be hanging out. So I'll see you then, hopefully, and if not, happy zine making, and let me know if you have any questions. All right, see you later.